Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our chats with Emily as we're calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson contained in the Johnson edition. We turned out a poem 192, Poor Little Heart. This is a fascinating poem. In some ways we're back to Emily dealing with rejection. We've heard this a number of times already. Sometimes rejection of another's love. We can think of Sue, we can think of Sam Boyles. Sometimes we can think about rejection of poetry and publishing. Obviously, we think about Boyles and others as well. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily is what we're calling our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've already worked through the set of introductory comments. I'm hopeful that you as well have already read the preceding 191 poems. We just finished with 191. The skies can't keep their secret. Now I want you to notice in this poem the progression. We're going to go from helpless to confident. We're going to go from poor to proud to frail to gay at the end of the poem in terms of her emotional states. I want you to get a sense of the musical-like rhythms of this poem. They're fascinating. This is a fun poem to read out loud. It does have a little sing-songy effect. Now, you'll remember that we said her love of this word little. It's, of course, going to be repeated again and again in this poem. In 172 poems, she uses this word. We've already seen it a number of times, haven't we? Let's enjoy. Poor little heart, did they forget thee? Then Dinaker, proud little heart, did they forsake thee? Be debonair, frail little heart, I would not break thee. Couldst credit me, gay little heart, like morning glory, wind and sun, wilt thee array. Now I think the key word of the poem is of course array. That is to say, I am building towards something that I can present, but we begin with poor and, of course, little heart. Is she speaking directly to herself, to her alternate other? We saw this in our study of Whitman's Leaves of Grass. We call that series Talks with Walt. And you'll remember a number of times in our study of Song of Myself, Whitman will play a very similar kind of game. Think of Song of Myself 3 and 5, for example. In both of those sections, a similar kind of thing, where she's speaking to herself, but she's speaking to the alternate self, to her, notice, little heart. And then the ambiguity of the word they. And we've seen this, what we've called the vague antecedent. It isn't completely clear who she's talking about. Is it they, those she loves? Is it they, those who could publish her stuff and will not, or accept her poems and don't respect them? Did they forget thee? Now, we have said that one of the views of Emily is that the only sin is to forget. She certainly will play this game of the need for remembrance, the need for respect, through memory. Notice here it's, did they forget thee? Her heart. In other words, whoever has hurt her, whoever has rejected her, have they forgotten? And then she'll use only one time in all of her poetry this Dinaker. This is the Scottish for do not, of course. And I don't care is only used one time in all of her poetry. In poem 176, we already saw that. Then Dinaker. Notice all the exclamation points here starting out. We go from poor to proud. Proud little heart, did they forsake thee? So we go from forgetting to forsake. Notice in each one of these, the progression is they're doing something even worse, and she's doing something to kind of buck herself up and say, it's okay, I'm going to get through this. Be debonair. This is her only use of that word as well in her poetry. And here it's probably best to read this debonair as carefree. Don't let it get under your skin, if you will. Now we go from poor to proud to frail, because weakness is kind of the inevitability of what might happen as one begins to muse on rejection. Frail little heart, notice, I would not break thee. In other words, I'm going to accept you even if others have rejected you. Couldst credit me, and again, the repetitions here are profound. And then we go from poor to proud to frail, and then finally to gay. Gay little heart, confident, gay, happy. Gay little heart. Like, and this is the simile, morning glory, of course, the morning glory that will open with the wind and the sun each day. Like morning glory, wind and sun wilt thee array. It is interesting that she uses the word wilt, because of course the word wilt can mean to shrink. And yet here, it is that idea that we're going to figure this out. And array, again, the last word of the poem is, I will be like the morning glory. I will not allow whatever this rejection is to destroy me. You'll remember, of course, Nietzsche's line, that which does not destroy me makes me stronger. At 2a, I think that clearly is the message of this poem. We must move through pain towards understanding the appropriate array of the morning glory. At 2b, I love the repetition. I love the kind of sing-songy effect of this poem. It suggests that I'm not going to be damaged. I'm not going to be hurt. I will not let rejection get me down. Now, we're going to see some poems at 3a. We're going to see some poems in our future that when we hit them, I want to remind you of a poem like this. 248, for example. Why do they shut me out of heaven? Did I sing too loud? But I can say a little minor, timid as a bird. Wouldn't the angels try me just once more? Just see if I trouble them, but don't shut the door. Oh, if I were the gentleman in the white robe, they were the little hand that knocked. Could I forbid? Or poem 502. When we meet this poem, we're going to enjoy these set of lines. At least to pray is left. O Jesus in the air, I know not which thy chamber is. I'm knocking everywhere. Thou saidest earthquake in the south and maelstrom in the sea. Say, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, hast thou no arm for me? Controversial poem that we will have to obviously exegete as we get closer to that poem. How about poem 376, one of the most controversial poems Emily ever wrote? Of course I prayed, and did God care? He cared as much as on the air a bird had stamped her foot and cried, give me my reason, life. I had not had, but for yourselves, 'twere better charity to leave me in the Adam's tomb, merry and naught and gay and numb, than this smart misery. Notice, by the way, the word gay is used as well in this offering. Now, I like to think of Dante's Inferno. We've done full lectures at learnstrong.net. Remember when we were messing with Canto 24, when Virgil says to a fatigued Dante, there is some fatigue, isn't there, in this passage? Up on your feet. This is no time to tire. The man who lies asleep will never waken. Fame and his desire and all his life slip past him like a dream. What is it that we learn in that study at learnstrong.net when we did all those cantos? Well, what does the Divine Comedy teach? You don't go to hell in the end. What? You go through hell. And I think that's the point that's being made here. Finally, to own a poem like this, it's pretty easy, I think, for most of us to read a poem like this and to ask, when was a time that you had to get through? When was a time you were rejected, you were misunderstood, and you had to get through? And in the end, the goal was the morning glories array. I hope Emily's study here is helping you get there. Thank you.